Hi there and a happy Independence Day. This Independence Day marks the 77th year in the long strides of economic development and progress that India as a nation underwent, and also the incredible advances in the defense sector. That definitely is a result of decades of struggle and resistance. So in this video, let's look at the most important players who struggled for and ensured the economic development and self-dependence of Indians long before we got independence. The exploitation of colonies by British and other European invaders were the central part of colonialism itself. The East India Company started ruling different parts of the Indian subcontinent from 1757 onwards. It had a very strategic win in the Battle of Plassey of 1757, also called as the Battle of Plassey. And soon after, Bihar and Bengal, one of the richest lands in the world and the biggest exporters of high quality cloth and handicrafted textiles, were reduced to severe poverty and famines. A combination of discriminatory tariff rates, heavy taxation based on the land use rather than the amount of produce during the seasons, and industrialization put a lot of strain on Indian farmers and manufacturers. The colonial regime practically eliminated Indian tariffs. Therefore, the British could sell all their products without any tax. But they created a system of exorbitant taxes and internal tariffs that prevented Indians from selling clothes within their own country, let alone export them. The traditional artisans and weavers suffered, especially under largely machine-made textiles being imported to India by the British. This led to what is called the drain of wealth, a term coined by Dadabhai Naoroji. India became merely a land of raw materials extraction, cheap slave labor, and revenue generation through taxes. Indian producers, sellers, agriculturalists, artisans, artists, all of them were severely suppressed and prohibited to even sell their stuff in the markets. Rather, they were made to do slave labor or indentured labor in British enterprises. And it was against this backdrop that Indian entrepreneurs rose up. And it's their inspiring story that we will see today. The Swadeshi Movement, started by Mahatma Gandhi after the partition of Bengal, was the first form of resistance against the British monopoly over Indian resources. It was promoted as a way of developing self-sufficiency and self-dependence as a way to Swaraj or self-rule. Indians burned foreign goods out in the public, and they started to either weave their own clothes in their own homes or buy from Indian merchants. Dandi March is yet another movement against the British control over Indian resources. The British had a salt monopoly and Indians were heavily taxed on buying salt, which is a basic human necessity. Doesn't matter if you're poor or rich. And through Dandi March, Gandhiji was able to effectively break the British monopoly over salt. But none of these movements could have been this successful without the help and support of the Indian entrepreneurs. Let's look at who they are. Jalal Bajaj was the founder of what is today Bajaj Group, which has 24 companies under it. Jalal Bajaj was adopted by a wealthy Marwadi business family when he was 5, and then he took over the family business and founded the Bajaj Group in 1926. Other than being one of the most successful industrialists of the time, he was also a very ardent follower of Gandhiji. He was quite taken by Gandhiji's teachings. He went on to participate in the non-cooperation movement, Nagpur Jhanda Satyagraha, Boycott Simon Mission, Dandi March, and anti-war movements in 1941. He was even jailed for 2 years for participating in Dandi March. He was also a great social reformer who used his wealth for uplifting women and downtrodden classes in India at the time. We know the contribution that the Tata Group has made to the economy and the culture of India. Jamshedji Tata, who was the founder of the Tata Group, is called the father of Indian industries. He learned about business from the masters in London, came back to India and invested in a cotton textile mill here. And after a lot of trial and error, he was able to establish his first cotton mill in Nagpur, named the Empress Mill. He was able to establish his textile company, Tata Textiles, by owning 3 more mills. These 4 mills were quite successful until 1980s when Tata sold these mills. Jamshedji Tata is also credited with introducing or creating humane working conditions and proper ventilated factories for Indian workers within these textile companies. But Jamshedji Tata's vision was not limited to textile mills or becoming a successful businessman. He wanted to industrialize India when the British was trying to suppress and subjugate industrial growth in India, just so they can extract more raw materials at a very cheap rate. Jamshedji Tata tried to establish the first indigenous iron and steel company, but he was unsuccessful at that. The resistance from the British was just too powerful, and the legacy of that fell upon his son Sir Dorabji Tata. But Jamshedji Tata was able to open the Taj Mahal Palace just to give a royal experience to Indians. Indian Institute of Science, Electricity, Aviation, Consumer Goods, all are areas that Tata invested in. We can't go to all that details here. I will make a separate video on the Tata Group. Let me know if you think that's a good idea. And 1.5 centuries after, the Tata is still contributing so much for India's economic growth and development. The Birla Group, founded by Shiv Narayan Birla, is yet another business that followed the British ways of doing business and made fortunes. Shiv Narayan Birla was the son of a local tradesman in Pilan, and he started to trade in cotton. And then they turned to opium trade, which was quite a lucrative business for British at that time. And through the opium trade, they made quite a fortune. Soon they expanded and became the forerunners of Indian industrialization and nationalism. It was under Ghanshyam Das Birla, Shiv Narayan Birla's son, that the company started trading in jute. Jute was yet another commodity on which British had a monopoly, and the price of jute skyrocketed during the First World War. Even though there was a lot of resistance and problems, he was able to establish his own jute trade amongst the European and British businessmen. Soon after, he was able to establish his own jute mill. Soon after, J.D. Birla started to expand his business to automobiles by establishing Hindustan Motors. He also started a bank named United Commercial Bank to break the British monopoly on lending and capital. So these are some of the important Indian entrepreneurs who pose such a challenge to the British rule in India. Even though India has made such advancements in industrialization, defense, and economic growth, agriculture in India has never really taken off as it should have post-independence. And that has consequences both to producers and consumers. FMCG as an industry is still highly dominated by foreign players, for example, and and many of them were the same players who dominated the market before the independence. For example, Unilever. There is also Johnson & Johnson's, Cadbury, Nestle, and so on. India's true independence lies in her sovereignty over economic matters and financial independence, especially when it comes to food. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. Click the like button if you like this video and don't forget to share it with someone. So until we meet next time, bye bye. Don't forget to subscribe. Well, it goes without saying that I don't have a sponsor yet. But not to worry, I will sponsor my own video. More precisely, my book with. This is the first book that I wrote. It's a realistic fiction novel about 4 teens in a city enmeshed in a life of drugs, love, violence and chaos. A tale of isolation and desperation one feels among known strangers in an unknown city. Well, this book is available on Amazon and Flipkart. The links will be in the description. I will also share the link to the video trailer of the book. So check them out. And now back to the video.